I still remember the exact moment it hit me. I was clutching this giant family secret that could blow up our next big gathering like a badly shaken soda can. One second, I was just sitting there trying to enjoy a quiet Saturday morning, and the next, I realized everyone in my family was suddenly treating me like some sort of secret vault. Weird thing is, I never planned to be that guy. I'm not the classic trusted sibling or the go-to cousin who knows all the tea. Hell, I'd much rather have been the guy who just watches Netflix in peace. But nope, here I was, caught in the middle and somehow, against all odds, the reluctant keeper of family secrets. So, how did I even get trapped in this awkward, uncomfortable, totally unasked for role? It's funny and kind of ridiculous when I think back on it because it wasn't some big cataclysmic event or deep family confessions in hushed tones under a starry sky. Nope. It was more like a slow crawl, like accidentally stepping into a spider web and realizing you're stuck there, waving your arms for help while trying not to freak out in front of Aunt Linda. There's this, unspoken hierarchy in families, right? Like, my mom is the classic fixer, you know the type. She's always trying to smooth things over before they blow up, the diplomatic peacekeeper forever clutching her emergency chocolate stash. Dad's the quiet observer, the kind of guy who watches everything but only speaks when he really needs to. Then there's Emily, my sister, who's the complete opposite of that low-key vibe. Dramatic doesn't even begin to cover it. If there's a small hill, she'll build a mountain, then a castle on top. She overshares like it's her day job, which, believe me, has sometimes been a disaster. And Aunt Linda? Oh boy. She's officially the family's #1 gossip, sweet as sugar but with an insatiable curiosity that borders on espionage. When she's around, it feels like you're playing a really intense game of dodgeball with your words because she can sniff out a secret from 3 houses down. Anyway, it all started quietly enough. It was one of those regular visits to my parents' place, just a lazy Sunday afternoon with Emily dropping by to confess the latest drama of her life in that theatrical way of hers. I remember it getting unexpectedly heavy when she leaned in and said almost in a whisper, "You're the only one I can tell." That line hit me like a thunderbolt. Suddenly, I was holding this secret buzzing in my brain like a firefly trapped in a jar. I wasn't sure what to do with it or how I became the chosen keeper. But there it was, glowing bright and dangerous, and every time I looked at it, I felt the weight settle a little more. Because this wasn't some harmless gossip. If that secret slipped at our next barbecue, our next holiday dinner, or some otherwise innocent family gathering, it wouldn't just cause a few awkward moments. It would crack the whole family facade wide open. I could almost see Mom's face going pale, Dad clenching his jaw, Emily bursting into tears or an all-out scream fest, and Aunt Linda practically breaking her own neck to get the scoop. And me? I'd be right there, stuck in the middle like the unlucky referee of a family match I didn't sign up for. So there we were, me unknowingly inducted into the exclusive and very unwanted club of the family's secret keeper. I kept wondering, how had I let this happen? And more importantly, how was I supposed to keep this secret without setting off a bomb? The family dynamics? Oh man, they're a whole sitcom on their own. Take Mom, for instance. She's like this peacemaker ninja, always stepping in before things get messy, smoothing over arguments like she's got a lifetime supply of invisible duct tape. She lives by the mantra that if everyone just talks nicely and drinks enough tea, the world will be a better place. There was this one time when Emily and Dad nearly had a full-blown standoff over the thermostat setting because, apparently, 72 degrees is inhumane torture according to Dad, and Emily insists it should be at least 75 to keep her cozy vibes intact. Mom intervened by swiftly bringing out a plate of cookies and somehow, within 5 minutes, turned that mess into an impromptu cookie-tasting session. It's wild. Dad is a different breed. He doesn't say much, but he watches everything like a hawk. I swear, if you ever wanted to know what was really going on, just look at Dad's expression. A raised eyebrow or a tight-lipped nod is basically a family chapter summary. His stubborn streak is legendary, and he clings to his silence like it's a secret weapon. It's hard to crack him open, but when he does speak, it feels like something heavy just landed in the room. Then Emily. Where do I even start? If Mom is serenity and Dad is silent strength, Emily is a hurricane of emotions and stories. Oversharing isn't just a habit for her, it's practically a lifestyle. One minute, she'll be going on about why her boss is an evil mastermind, and the next, she's divulging her latest epic heartbreak to anyone within earshot. Which, let me tell you, has its consequences. Sometimes people hear things they were definitely not prepared for. Like the time she accidentally revealed Aunt Linda's secret high school crush on my cousin Steve at a family barbecue. Awkward doesn't even begin to cover that one. Speaking of Aunt Linda, she's basically earned the unofficial title of Family Gossip Queen. Sweet as pie, but with this sixth sense for sniffing out dirt that should probably stay buried. Being around her is like constantly dodging verbal landmines. She's that type who'll suddenly ask, "So, do you guys know what Emily's been really up to lately?" With this harmless smile that screams, "Spill it or I'll find out myself." She's the neighborhood's unofficial news anchor, and if the family was a soap opera, she'd be the producer, director, and lead star all rolled into one. So yeah, that's the scene when everything started to go off script. Emily showed up one lazy Sunday afternoon with that serious look she gets when she's about to drop something big. Emily leaned in, voice dropping to this almost conspiratorial whisper and said, "You're the only one I can tell." And just like that, she unloaded this secret that landed squarely on my unsuspecting lap. It wasn't some trivial gossip about who said what at the office, or a casual complaint about a neighbor's loud dog. No, this was serious, something that, if it got out, would fray the delicate threads holding the family tapestry together. I remember feeling this electric jolt, like I was holding a fragile glass ornament in my hands and the tiniest slip would shatter it into a million pieces. The air suddenly felt heavier. Even the usual hum of the neighborhood outside seemed to pause, like the world was holding its breath. And here's the kicker. No one else in the room had a clue about this secret. Not Mom, not Dad, and definitely not Aunt Linda. If they found out, and trust me, Aunt Linda would sniff it out in a heartbeat, it would be like setting off a chain reaction of chaos. Mom would spring into overdrive trying to fix things before anyone could get upset. Dad would probably retreat into his silent world, his jaw clenching tighter with the stress. Emily, already on edge from keeping this all bottled up, might just blow the lid off herself. And Aunt Linda? Well, she'd probably be both devastated and gleeful, armed with the juiciest family scoop since the Great Turkey Incident of 2014. Me? I was stuck smack dab in the middle, the unintended secret vault, and every time I thought about letting it slip, I could practically hear the invisible doomsday horn blaring. It felt like balancing on a tightrope over a pit of snarky relatives and simmering tempers. And then Aunt Linda, ever the subtle watchdog, started dropping hints, her questions like tiny fishing hooks. During one family dinner, she casually asked, "So, any new developments in the family news? You know, things we're not supposed to talk about?" With this smile that totally dared me to crack. I was sweating bullets, trying to redirect the conversation with my best nothing to see here vibe. But Mom, she caught the tension. Her eyes narrowed, and after one of those long, slow sighs, she cornered me later in the kitchen, coffee cup in hand. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" she asked, voice gentle but sharp. "And I'm not saying this because I'm the peacekeeper, but it's making the whole house feel like a pressure cooker. You can talk to me." I wanted to spill immediately, to tell her to back off and let me handle it, but I also knew Mom's diplomatic calm could cause more complications if she got involved too soon. Then, out of nowhere, Dad made his move. One evening, just as the sun was dipping below the horizon, he walked up to me after dinner and said in his low, serious tone, "You know something. And you're not telling." No accusing words, just a quiet certainty that sometimes only Dad can pull off. It threw me off balance because Dad had never directly confronted me like that before. That night, Emily's anxiety was through the roof. She called me in her room, pacing back and forth, twisting her hair. "I can't keep this in anymore. It's eating me alive," she said, eyes wide and voice breaking. Maybe I should just tell everyone and get it over with. I took a deep breath. No way. If this gets out now, it's gonna wreck everything. We just have to hold on a bit longer. But even as I said that, I felt the weight of the secret crushing down. Our next big family dinner was looming like a loaded gun against the fragile peace, and I knew it was only a matter of time before this whole tightrope walk came crashing down. Then, during that very dinner, the secret almost slipped out. Not because of me or Emily, but because of a perfectly timed comment from Aunt Linda that caught us both off guard. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest as the words hovered in the air, ready to explode. There we were, perched on the edge of a family fallout none of us saw coming. And me? I was right there in the eye of the storm, still trying to figure out how the heck I got roped into being the family's secret keeper in the first place. That whole week felt like walking through a minefield with a blindfold on. Every family phone call, every text from Emily, and even the smallest look from Mom or Dad set off this internal alarm like, "Careful, any minute now something's gonna blow." Aunt Linda's subtle probes were like tiny pokes with a stick, testing how long I could keep this charade going. One evening, she dropped by just to say hi, which secretly meant, "How about you spill some family tea, dear?" Sitting in the living room, she tilted her head, eyes sparkling, and said, "So, what's the latest buzz? You've been awfully quiet these days." I laughed it off, choking down the urge to blurt, "Nothing, absolutely nothing." But the truth was burning a hole through me. The more she pressed, the heavier my silence felt. I started feeling like a mime trapped inside an invisible box, desperately wanting to shout but stuck miming secrets no one else was supposed to know. Then there was Mom. She never outright demanded answers, but her sixth sense was borderline psychic. One afternoon, while I was pretending to be engrossed in a book, she perched next to me with that knowing look. "You know, silence can be louder than words," she said, eyes narrowing slightly. "Whatever it is, it's wearing you down, and that's not what I want for you." I wanted to shrug it off, assure her all was fine, but I could see that tiny crease between her eyebrows, the one that appears when she's genuinely worried. I'd always admired her for being the glue that held the family together, but now I realized more than ever how fragile that glue was. Then, out of nowhere, Dad took me completely by surprise. There's something about the way he communicates, few words, but each one loaded with gravity. One evening, as I was drying the dishes after dinner, he leaned against the counter, staring at me with those steady eyes, and said, "You're carrying something. It's not just on your mind, it's in your bones. I want to help, but only if you let me." That caught me off guard because Dad usually lets everything slide unless it's a matter of life or death. His rare moment of opening up made me realize just how serious the situation had become. For a fleeting second, I considered dropping the secret right there, sharing the burden to gain some relief. But I didn't. Because part of me still believed that if I could just hold everything together, if I became the family's secret vault a little longer, maybe the storm could pass, the tension could ease, and normal life could continue. Meanwhile, Emily's panic was growing by the day. One night, she called me in a flurry, voice frantic like she was about to burst. "I'm losing it." I keep imagining the worst, everyone finding out at once, ripping apart everything. Maybe it's better if I tell them all now, get it over with. I tried to calm her down, running through every possible outcome, every reason why holding tight was still the best plan. Trust me, spilling now would be like dropping a bomb in a crowded room. Not worth it. We just have to hang in there a bit longer. But even as I reassured her, I was struggling with my own doubts. How long could I carry this? How many more nights of restless sleep and tight smiles? The secret wasn't just hers or mine anymore, it was a ticking time bomb hovering above our whole family. Then came that family dinner, the night everything nearly unraveled. The table was set, Mom's lemon bars ready for dessert, and the typical hum of chatter filling the room. Aunt Linda, ever the sly fox, launched her usual subtle fishing expedition. "So," she said with a grin that suggested she already knew the answer, "any surprising updates we should know about? You know, the things we're not supposed to talk about but probably can't resist?" My stomach dropped. I froze mid-bite, eyes darting between her and Emily, who was suddenly gripping her napkin with white-knuckle tightness. Mom caught the tension instantly, her smile faltering just a touch. I opened my mouth, heart pounding so loud I'm sure everyone heard it, trying to say something neutral to deflect. But then Aunt Linda chuckled, a soft, knowing kind of laugh, and said, "Relax, I'm just teasing, for now." That tiny "for now" hung in the air like a threat, and I could see Emily exhale a shaky breath beside me. The secret was still safe, but the margin for error had just gotten razor thin. I sat back, heart racing, thinking how ridiculous it was that here I was, the accidental keeper of a secret that had somehow turned our family dinners into minefields and made me wish for a simple silence rather than this constant tightrope walk. And somehow, in the midst of all this chaos, I was still stuck in the middle, trying not to let everything come crashing down. That night, after Aunt Linda's, "for now," comment, I couldn't just sit there pretending everything was fine. The air felt electric, thick with all those unspoken words. After everyone cleared the table, well, Mom cleared the way, as usual, Emily and I slipped into the living room, away from ears like little spies. She looked at me with those wide, earnest eyes and said, "I can't do this anymore, I'm a wreck." I nodded, feeling every bit of that exhaustion. Me too. But you know, sometimes keeping a secret isn't just about hiding stuff. It's about protecting the people you love, even if it means swallowing your own anxiety. She gave a shaky laugh. "Since when did you get so poetic?" Must be the dam of stress finally breaking. We shared a quiet moment, both weighed down by the secret but suddenly less alone in it. Next day, I had a long talk with Mom. I figured if anyone was going to help me navigate this mess, it was her, the family's unofficial peacekeeper and crisis manager. I spilled some of what I was feeling without revealing the secret itself, trusting her to help me carry the load. Her reaction was, surprisingly, calming. "Secrets always have a way of surfacing eventually," she said, stirring her tea thoughtfully. "But it's how we handle them that defines us. You've done well holding on this long. Maybe it's time to prepare for when the truth comes out, not by hiding, but by facing it together." It was a relief to hear her say that. I realized then that the secret's power came not just from what was hidden, but how much fear and silence surrounded it. For the first time, I started to believe we could survive the fallout. That weekend, at yet another family gathering, Emily finally spoke up. Not with a dramatic confession or a bombshell throwdown, but quietly, almost under her breath, "I want us to be honest. Maybe it's time." I caught Mom's eye from across the room, and she gave me this subtle nod like a secret handshake without words. Dad just sipped his coffee, watching, his usual unreadable expression softening just a touch. When Emily shared the news, it wasn't met with gasps or outrage. Instead, there was a weird mix of awkward silence, some teary eyes, a few faint chuckles from Aunt Linda, who had suspected all along, and then a bunch of questions. Big questions, sure, but with a surprisingly steady stream of support. It wasn't perfect, no family drama ever is, but it was real. And it felt like a crack in the wall of tension that had built up for weeks. Sitting back after the conversation, I realized that carrying the family's secret wasn't the curse I'd imagined. Yeah, it was heavy and uncomfortable, and there were moments when I wondered why the hell I'd volunteered for secret keeper duty in the first place. But there were unexpected perks too, like seeing the family seen through new eyes, understanding the cracks beneath the surface, and learning that maybe, just maybe, secrets don't have to destroy us. But honestly, I'm still not sure if being the family's secret keeper is a blessing, a burden, or some weird combination of both. What I do know is this: sometimes the most important thing isn't the secret itself, but the quiet strength it takes to carry it, and the courage to finally set it free, together.